with the changes that are happening, voters voted, but sometimes when these initiatives go through, there is not a real clear follow-up. So what's going to happen next?
So I think the biggest thing now on the legislation side is making sure that any and everything that is associated with Prop 36 is funded. Obviously, you need money to make things work, so there's going to be more requests, or more people are going to be like, okay, now I need more DAs, or I need maybe more officers. Could be the issue as well. Making sure that we're making sure that it's funded to make sure that that proposition works. Like as if that's what the voters wanted, we should be pushing forward through that. But that doesn't always happen in California, as you know. We've talked earlier, like propositions get passed where the voters say this is what we want, and it doesn't ever happen. And I know this is off subject, like with the dams.
Yeah,
right?
Prop 1, when it passed, and people voted for it. But
people voted for it, said this is what we want, but that's been a long time, and it hasn't happened either. So not everything gets followed through, unfortunate.
So if law has changed, right, is it immediately effective right after is it going to change in the beginning of the year?
They're usually delayed like January 25 or January 26. To tell you the truth, I don't know the exact date that it's supposed to take effect. Like going back to our retail theft package that we did, that the governor signed last year. I know those bills weren't supposed to take effect until January of this coming year. The only bill that actually was going to take effect the day that it was signed by the governor was mine. I had an urgency clause in mine that said it will take effect as soon as the governor signs it. So with the exception of mine, I know the others had to wait till January.
If the legislature doesn't give any budget to this proposition, can the police officers and the system, can they implement Prop 36?
Yes, they can still do what needs to be done. I just see other counties who maybe are not well equipped, not well staffed, which is usually what we hear a lot with agencies being understaffed. Recruitment and retention is an issue. Those are some issues that I could see them maybe making points. But as far as the nuts and bolts go, as far as it, no, they can start doing it.
Do we have a problem in California when we vote for things or lawmakers make the law, but they actually don't get done?
Yeah, so like we talked about Prop 1, something the voters had basically demanded that we have done and hasn't happened. But that also happens with other bills. More and more we're getting calls in our offices saying that, hey, that bill that you passed either isn't being implemented the way it was written, or it may be, in the most cases, it's not being implemented because the agencies that are supposed to apply the permits, maybe that have to do with this bill, are being either delayed because they don't see it the same way, or maybe because they just don't want to do it. There's agencies out there's people that maybe work for agencies that may have different thoughts on a bill, and hey, I may not agree with it, so I'm not going to implement things. I just came from a conference talking about oil where they're applying for their permits as per law and trying to follow and make everything they can, but they were only allowed 35 permits, and we're talking a couple hundreds that they've asked for.
And they had the right to get these permits?
And they had the rights to get these permits. And so we have some of my colleagues in Sacramento, Assemblymember Buffy Wicks, Heath Flora. I know they have a select committee where they're going to be going over permitting because they're finding out that a lot of things that we think we're solving up in the Capitol aren't being implemented as far as practice goes. And so I think that's going to be a big thing that's going to be coming this year also with this select committee that's looking into permitting and holding people accountable, like bringing them in and say, hey, we told you as legislators that this is what we want. This bill was passed. It was signed by the governor. Why are you not doing this? And so I think that's going to be an interesting thing that's going to unfold this year as well.
And do you think they will? Do you think the police force is kind of ready to take on this? Or do you think there is going to be a time frame or there needs to be a change?
I think they're ready for it now. Like I said, a lot of them live in the same communities that they serve. And so a lot of these people are people they get to see on a daily basis, either off duty or on duty. That law enforcement, you get into the business because it's a calling. It's not just a job. It's a calling that you see, and you want to naturally help people. And knowing that they can step up and help people now because the voters have voted on, yes, this is something we want, do it, hold people accountable, then that's what they want. And I think that's going to help with morale also. I'm not going to arrest somebody and like see somebody, although in some crimes it's usually that way. I'm going to arrest them and then see them out before my shift ends. That's something that law enforcement officers don't like. If I take the time to arrest you, book you, put you in, and write a great report to make sure that the DA's office has it so that way they can prosecute, and then I see you walking out, and they could get bailed out. That's always something they can do if they're bailable. But I think with the Prop 36, as far as crime goes with shoplifting, it'll also boost morale for law enforcement.